All right, here we go. We have former NBA champion William Bedford in the building. Welcome to VladTV.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, you have a very, very interesting story. We've interviewed a lot of NBA guys over the years, but I think your story is very different than most people that I've interviewed. So I want to start in the very beginning. So you grew up in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes.
So what was Memphis like in the 70s and 80s?
It wasn't a lot of violence like it is today. Back then, it was more people looked out for each other, people looked out for your kids, and, it was a more family-oriented type of place back then. Everybody was pretty much together.
Okay. And you grew up with both parents, single parent?
Yes, I grew up with both parents. 3 sisters.
Okay. 3 sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, growing up, you said it was a lot, safer than it is these days. I mean, but did you get mixed up in the streets at all, or were you generally a good kid?
Well, no, as my days grew up, I'd say junior high to high school, no, I didn't get into a lot of trouble because I always had coaches that would come over on the weekends and pick us up about 6 a.m. on a Saturday and take us to the gym and pretty much just, showed us a lot of skills. A lot of old school coaches there, a lot of guys that played before us was there. So they pretty much took up a lot of time with us to teach us the game.
Okay, so you went to Melrose High School in Memphis.
Yes.
And I guess by the time you were, as a freshman, you were 6'9".
Yes, I was 6'9". By the time I left Mexico High School on our all senior high team, that coach, which was Coach Briggs at the time, took up on time to teach me how to play basketball because I was 6'9" at the time and I couldn't even make a layup. I really didn't even like basketball at first beginning. So, and then upon him and a lot of other guys coming and grabbing me and taking me places to play, I ended up learning how to play the game. And then I left there and went to Melrose High School my 10th grade year.
Right. I think in a interview you said, honestly, I hated basketball. I was made to play basketball. I was 6'9" in the 9th grade, and they made me play basketball because everyone kept telling my parents to make me play basketball. I hated basketball. When I was in 9th grade, I couldn't even make a layup.
Exactly.
Okay. So you literally hated the sport back then?
Well, I hated it because everywhere I would go, I was going with parents or going with someplace with relatives or my sister or somebody. Everybody was always asking me the same questions. Do you play basketball? Maybe you should. Your folks ought to make you play. And I'm like, who are you? You keep on telling me my folks need to make me play this, make me do that. And I got to the point where I hated basketball so much because everywhere, I don't care if we went to the grocery store, people were stopping my parents. Does he play? Y'all ought to make him play. And I hated that.
Okay. So then in 83, you went to Memphis State University, which is now University of Memphis. Mm-hmm. And you said once you got there, that's when you actually started learning plays and so forth.
Well, see, growing up, I would always run so much, and the coaches told me always, if I don't learn the plays, the least you can do is change ends of the floor. And by that way, you change ends of the floor, 90% of the time, you might touch the ball. So I used to run all the time to get all the rebound block shots I could because if I run everybody, I get a dunk on the other end. So I tried my best to outrun everybody all the time.
Okay. And by the time you got to college, were you already, because you were 7'1"?
7'1".
So were you already 7'1" by the time you got to college?
Mm-hmm. I was 7'1" when I got to college.
Okay. So you were just one of the big guys on campus at that point, literally.
Yes. Along with Keith Lee.
Right. Exactly. So you guys are playing for Memphis State, and by 85, most of the team was like local Memphis guys. Everyone either came from Memphis or West Memphis on the team. Like 11 out of 12 players were actually hometown guys.
That's right. That's right.
And you guys had a big year that year.
Mm-hmm. True.
You guys almost won the championship.
Yes.
Okay.
Final Four, Villanova.
Okay. How did it feel to almost win?
Almost exciting. But, back then it was pretty big here in Memphis because all the guys that was on that team was from each rival high school here in town. And then we were all on the same team and had everybody in the Mid-South Coliseum together. And that's what really brought a lot of joy to the city, because we were winning, and then everybody was having a good time. And, nobody's having a good time when you lose. So we were having great times when we was out winning, and, we learned that half the city wouldn't go to work on days we had games. So, it was a pretty nice feeling, though.
Well, you had some very interesting teammates on that particular team. One of which was Baskerville Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
He actually joined the NBA draft along with you, and he got drafted by the Bucks, but he didn't end up actually playing with them. He played some overseas. He came home, became a truck driver, and then by 1997, I guess he had drug problems and depression. He ended up getting into an argument with his girlfriend and shot her in the head, dead, and then ended up killing himself right afterwards, after telling one of his relatives that the whole thing had been an accident. Did you keep in contact with Baskerville after you guys played?
After I left Memphis, I didn't have any contacts with him, because when he got drafted, I didn't know how to get in contact with him then. And then I didn't know he came back home and started driving trucks. When I heard about the incident, it was kind of strange, because I always knew how lively he was and how excited he always wanted to be. He always wanted to do stuff, get into things. And to be, for him to get into depression is like, it's hard to believe, but I guess it can happen to some people.
One of the other players on your team, Aaron Price, he was killed in 1998 in a carjacking that was still unsolved in Memphis. And then 2 years later, his brother got murdered as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did you keep in contact with Aaron?
No, I never kept in contact with Aaron. The only time we were close, hung out, was like when we was at school together, stayed in the dorm together. And we would always horseplay on the road and everything. But no, after the season's over and the school was out, no, we never contacted each other. Right.
And then your coach, Dana Kirk, after losing that season, he ended up getting dismissed after one more season. Then he got locked up for tax evasion.
Right. Yeah, I heard about all that after I was gone.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So then, after that season, after playing for college for 3 years, you ended up joining the NBA draft.
Yes.
Was there a reason why you joined, after year 3 as opposed to just going one more year and graduating?
Well, at that point in time, I felt like it was time for me to go. I didn't feel like I had, wanted to stay in college another year, because I was always thinking, I've always watched guys stay in school another year and end up getting hurt. And then that final year, they end up not getting drafted. They end up finding a job at home. So I decided to say, let me go into the NBA. Let me, if this does happen to me, at least I'd already made some money for my family and for myself. And lo and behold, it did happen. It happened in preseason against Minnesota. No, it was against Denver Nuggets. And that was the first time I tore my ACL then.
Well, you entered the NBA draft in 86, was it?
Mm-hmm.
That year, Brad Daugherty was the number 1 pick. Len Bias was the number 2 pick. John Sally was the number 11 pick. Dennis Rodman was the number 27 pick. And you were the number 6 pick. So before we get to you, did you know Len Bias at all?
No, I didn't know him. I knew him by just watching him play on TV. And then when we were in New York, we took time to talk to each other, and joke around, play around, because, all those guys was hanging out back together, and we all took pictures together. And we all was joking around about what kind of boats and yachts we were going to buy, and at that point, we never knew anything about him having any kind of problem, because he looked like the average guy. I mean, just happy, full of life, and, and from what I heard, that was his first time, which shouldn't have been his first time. It should have never happened.
Right. I guess he got drafted to the Celtics,
mm-hmm.
and he was celebrating with his friends,
Yeah,
took some cocaine.
Back in school, yeah.
Yeah, back in school,
Mm-hmm.
overdosed and died. When you heard that news, what'd you think?
At first, we couldn't believe it because, me and Chris Washburn, we've been friends since '86. We talk all the time. And that was one of the things, I guess, that kept us communicating with each other because we were actually, the three of us took pictures together. We took pictures together a lot, and we talked a lot amongst us three. And then it's to find out, man, he dead. It's like, who, when, how? And it was unbelievable. So after we got the facts about it, I mean, it was pretty shaking, for a while. That was one of the hurtful moments. I'd say my first time in the NBA feeling hurt, that was the first one. Because I'm actually talking to the guy.
Yeah.